Welcome you all to CHD 208, Administration of Child Development Program, and this is going to be the video for Chapter 9. I'm going to move this down, sorry, Staffing a Center. This chapter will focus on the importance of developing good leadership skills and then using those skills along with good communication skills to be an effective administrator of a child development or child care program. So creating a positive climate and motivating your staff. The real task of any director as a manager is to work effectively with and provide support to those who are going to implement your program. The manager must relate to the staff and motivate them to do the tasks designated to them. Members of the staff implement the program, but the director, acting in the capacity of leader and motivator, orchestrates so that all the components work together to be successful. The director's responsibility is to create a climate of care, trust, and respect. And this climate is best achieved by demonstrating caring behavior, by taking steps to build a feeling of community or a partnership, and by creating a climate for good communication among and between all members of the center community. So how can you go about doing that? Let's see. So, modeling. The director, since the director is the person who creates a climate of warmth, caring, and acceptance by relating to all staff members, parents, and children with honesty and openness, mutual trust will grow in an environment in which respect is earned. And the best way to earn respect, of course, is to show respect. You're right. So when respect for difference is modeled, the tone for the entire center will be set. And that is 100% set by the director. Modeling begins with the very first encounter the director has with new staff members as they come into the center for their interview or maybe for their first day on the job. The trust and mutual respect that are communicated during these initial meetings are the building blocks for the relationships that will develop over time. Additionally, the director is always a person who is showing that intellectual curiosity and is always seeking more information to do a better job so that they can inspire others to do the same. So when you give respect, you will earn respect. When you show intellectual curiosity meaning you're always eager to learn more. And then when you seek more information in order to do a better job, if you're modeling that as the director, it stands to reason that what will your staff do? They'll do the exact same thing. So let's talk about communication for just a second. Every director is going to have to engage in written communication. And when you do written communication, the first thing you have to think about when you write something is who's your audience, right? Who needs to know the information that you're going to do. However, even though you'll have some written communication, the majority of your communication is going to be face-to-face, verbal, okay? Or sometimes even nonverbal. And so to be an effective leader, the director must be a competent communicator and must take responsibility for helping the entire staff also develop communication skills. Now, you may think, I'm not very good at verbal communication. It is a learned skill, okay? It can be learned. You have to be, in order to be a good communicator, you also have to be a very good listener, okay? And to gauge in effective problem solving. So remember in some of our classes, we've talked about actually engaging and listening to others with that eye contact, really being engaged in what the person is saying so that you can then turn around and apply those effective problem solving skills. Now, there are some messages or some communication that can be negative, okay? And so moreover, there's like forms of blocked or ineffective communication, and that would be like demanding and controlling messages, putting down other people, using sarcasm or threats, or being flippant, kind of like giving a humorous response to some kind of serious concern or making light of it. And so those are examples of negative communication or ineffective and blocked communication. So how are you going to motivate your staff? That's one of the main things you have to do. The director does the orchestrating, but programs are implemented through the efforts of their staff. So in order to get your staff pumped up and ready to go, you got to use encouragement and then something else called job enrichment. Now, lots of times people confuse encouragement with like rewards or reinforcements. And a lot of times those are used to motivate staff. But as with teaching, they tend to kind of increase dependency on the one who controls the source of the rewards. And a lot of times they also heighten communication amongst your staff, which then defeats the whole purpose of trying to motivate, right? So encouragement, on the other hand, it tends to build self-confidence and sense of intrinsic job satisfaction. And what intrinsic mean is that you do things because it feels good and it's the right thing to do, not because you're being rewarded to do it, okay? So you want a staff that has that intrinsic motivation. Another thing that we see often is something called job enrichment. And it's kind of a management strategy that enhances job satisfaction and honors the strengths of staff by presenting possibly more challenges and giving them a little bit more increased responsibility, which, like I said, in turn gives kind of on-the-job satisfaction. Like you may find a teacher who does something very well within your staff, and you may ask them to conduct a training for the other staff members. Maybe ask them if they want to do a special project, like handle a special project within your center. So those are some ways of job enrichment. Now, designing employment policies. You must have employment policies. And if you are walking into a center that already has them established, you'll want to make sure that you really thoroughly review those. They're required documents, okay? So you have to give employees a written statement at the beginning of each employment term, which means if you're the employee, you want that personnel policies, okay? What are they? Because personnel policies almost in a sense protect the employee, okay? Like you need to know what it is that is expected. So I just went through and kind of hit some hot spots and some things that I felt like you may see often, some vocabulary that you might see in a policy, and you need to know what they are. So the first one is a career lattice. We did this earlier in the semester where we talked about the pathways. Okay, so a career lattice defines the steps needed to move to a higher level employment. So what do you need to do to bump yourself up as an employee, okay? The second thing are fringe benefits. In your contract, it might mention something like fringe benefits, okay? This might be retirement plans, health insurance, merit pay, paid sick leave, paid personal days, vacation days. Those are your fringe benefits, the things that come along with your salary, okay, that you'll be getting. So you need to know what those are and read that carefully so that those are clearly defined for you and that you know what is expected. Employment at will. So listen to this one. This one is pretty common in most states. And as a matter of fact, Alabama is an employment at will state. And so what that means is it refers to an employment status in which the employee does not have an annual or ongoing contract and that they can be terminated without reason. Okay, so that is another thing that you have to look at, and look in your contract or in the personnel policies and see, is the state where you're working an employment at will state. Relief periods, you may see those actually mentioned in the personnel policy. So what is that? Those are a planned system of daily relief periods or breaks. Okay, so information about the length and the timing of staff breaks, so that you know exactly how much break you will have, that's kind of built into your schedule. So they're called relief periods. Performance valuations, should be scheduled on a regular basis. Okay. Evaluation and grievance procedures should also be included in employment policies, and they should be made available to every center personnel. You need to know when's the input, when's the performance valuation going to be done? What are they looking for? How will you be told the results? And then also a grievance. If you don't agree with it, what do you do as the employee? All of that should be laid out in your personnel policy. In lots of centers and in lots of schools, I have seen this happen. It's called growing your own leaders. And it's probably one of the most effective ways of developing directors and or administrators in early childhood, because many times, many of the leaders in a school, in a child care center, they start out as teachers. So what we have found and what the research shows is that former teachers probably make some of the very best leaders. And so once we can take a former teacher and we can provide them with training in administration and give them, remember that job enrichment where we're giving them some extra special projects to let them see what it's like to kind of be a director or an administrator, they often make some of the most effective directors. And the reason is this, is because they know what teachers deal with. They know what the employee is dealing with. So many times if you bring somebody from the outside in and they've never been a teacher before, that they don't understand what it's like to be a teacher and what the responsibilities that come along with it. So when you take a former teacher and you make he or she into the administrator or the director or the leader, then they understand the plight of the teacher. And so it just makes it so much better. So let's talk a little bit about what we've learned. The importance of good interpersonal relationships and trust within a center cannot be overstated. Only through a feeling of community and a spirit of cooperation can a director create a supportive environment in which both adults and children can grow to their fullest potential. There must be a strong element of acceptance and positive regard in the surrounding climate to establish a mutually helping relationship for staff, families, and children. It is the responsibility of the director as a leader to serve as a model of caring and respect for others in order to build a strong sense of community among all the diverse people involved in the center program. Effective interpersonal communication among the staff members, children, and families is also an important basic element in creating a supportive, cooperative environment at a center. And it is up to the director to be a model of good communication to create an atmosphere of openness, warmth, and acceptance. So thanks so much for joining me for Chapter 9, and I will see you next week.